something to prove. Checkbox. Checkbox. Illinois, you're just another checkbox on his list of bucket list items to do. You know, that's what happens when you're a royal heir. When you're a Hyatt heir and you don't have, you know, any claims to fame, you can just throw money at things on your checkbox, on your bucket list. The African American thing. If you have one of them, you can have two. Hey, I got an African American. Look at all my African Americans.
He's Senate material in a way that Emil Jones isn't, if I may say.
Okay.
I mean, you know, he's just, I don't know how to say it exactly, but Emil's a little more crass.
Right.
Am I crass, JB? Am I crass? What does that mean, guys? You know what crass means, right? He's a little too rough around the edges. He's a little too ghetto. He's a little too black. Is that what you're trying to say, JB? He's not the black. He's not the African American I would like to appoint. He's not that kind of African American. There's a certain African American I'm looking for. You know how you go to the store and you pick up your avocados and you check them for ripeness? It's a certain one that I'm looking for. Pick the right one. Sure, when I get home, it's brown on the inside. It's going to be green.
And it opens up the Secretary of State spot, which is the key spot,
right?
You know, controls jobs, et cetera. And it'd be a lot less pressure on you. You don't have to put an African American in that spot.
Correct.
Now, to be clear,
there's certain spots for the certain African Americans. Very chess-like. Certain blacks go in certain places. No black, you're supposed to be over there. no, have this black get over there. Get back to your spot. Wrong kind of black. Throw him out.
Clear here, we're talking Jesse White, who was then and still is the Illinois Secretary of State, a job which, as you heard Pritzker allude to, comes with what could be considered political spoils. So lots of state jobs to fill, basically. Emil Jones, at the time, was president of the Illinois Senate. Both are African Americans. We don't have time to play the entire conversation, so let's jump ahead some.
Of all the African Americans I can think that are sort of like qualified and vetted, and people will say, oh, that's a pretty good pick. The one that is least offensive and maybe gets you the most because it gets you that Secretary of State appointment is Jesse White.
You can argue he's got a lot in common with Obama. He's black and white. How stupid is that? Hey, no, he's a good.
Hey, don't cut him off, Blago. Let him finish. He said, that's good. That's good. Ha ha. Ha ha. I love how the apology only included that he should have laughed at that. He should have given pushback. No, literally, this whole conversation was framed around your initiatives, your proactive statements around picking the right African American in the right spot, not to be too crass. And Blago just kept it real and said, yeah, he's black and white because he ain't got time. Blago didn't have time to chop it up and be the happy warrior that's very selective with his words and very careful about making sure the African Americans don't catch on because I'm using the words like magic. How stupid is that? Aha. The right African American. Let's hear that again. I just want to make sure you guys got it. This is your happy warrior, Mr. DEI hires all around him. He's not like Trump. He's not like Trump. Trump's racist. I'm not. I just picked the right African Americans for the right places. Just the right kind, though. Not those other African Americans that I can't control. That's the asterisk. That's the unheard language there. It's not the African Americans that I can't predict and control. That'll lose me investments. That'll lose me funding. That'll lose me my seat. No, not those African Americans. Just the right ones. And Blago kept it real. Oh, you mean the ones that are black and white? The ones that work with our, whatever our priorities are. Got it.
That's a pretty good pick.
The sellouts is what he said.
Pick. The one that is least offensive and maybe gets you the most because it gets you that Secretary of State appointment is Jesse White.
You can argue he's got a lot in common with Obama. He's black and white. How stupid is that? Hey, no, he's a good. He'd be a legitimate pick.
I'm not pushing anybody.
No, I understand what you're saying. There makes perfect sense. Now, he has said he doesn't want it.
Makes perfect
So
sense.
Rob Blagojevich, of course, is in Colorado serving a 14-year sentence. What did J.B. Pritzker have to say about this conversation?
Pritzker held a press conference this afternoon at a soul food restaurant in Austin. He says he wasn't.
Because nothing says I love the African Americans like, and I have no issue with them. I don't stereotype them. Nothing says I accept African Americans with all of their characteristics and potential diversities as humans than going to a soul food restaurant in Austin to apologize with a bunch of black folks behind you that say, hey, ain't wasn't no wrong with what you said. Now get him in that governor seat.
Isn't his best self on the call, and it doesn't match his values.
While I may have had a call that portions of which I regret, and
Portions,
portions
just
of which
portions.
I should have pushed back on the governor about.
And not you had to push back on the governor. You literally said less offensive. He's the least offensive African American. Yeah, haha, that's good. That's good. What do you mean pushback? Sounds like you were all on board, buddy. How Blago get a 14-year sentence, but this guy got to be governor? Ask yourself.
And I apologize for those things. I also know that I will be a great fighter for the people of Illinois.
Surrounded by all his good African Americans. These are what you're looking at are the avocados that got to come home. They make great avocado toast, okay? It's Walter Burnett Jr. there. There's Jesse White, okay? Walter Burnett, the convicted bank robber, okay?
Pritzker says he can't recall who called who on that phone call or really how often he was even talking to Blagojevich at that point, though there were a lot of moving parts in the political world then. In previously leaked conversations, Pritzker was jockeying to be appointed state treasurer should that post become available. But in this call, Pritzker says he was advocating for Secretary White to be made a U.S. senator. Now, a lot of ears perked up at Pritzker saying that White is, quote, the least offensive. Critics have called that language demeaning. While he says that he regrets some of those words, Pritzker today seemed to say he was trying to placate Blagojevich. He says the governor was a somewhat volatile person.
So you're a punk, you're a sellout, and you're the least offensive, Mr. Happy Warrior. Is that what it is? You scared of Blago? Is that what it is? Blago made you do it, huh? That was how he got out of it?
White, who like many Democratic Party leaders is backing Pritzker in this crowded primary race, he stood by him this afternoon.
I've had the great pleasure of knowing J.B. Pritzker for almost 40 years. I know where his heart is. I know where he is. I know about our relationship. And I was not offended by it. He apologized to me, and that was good enough.
But not everyone has been quite as accepting.
Well, Pritzker said he hasn't actually had any endorsements withdrawn. And at that press conference, as you could see, a lot of officials, all of whom actually who were black, were literally standing by his side. One of them, Chicago Alderman Walter Burnett, said that he's perturbed that it's as if this call has been spun, like Pritzker was saying, racially insensitive things about African Americans as a whole. After all, he says this was a personal call. Who wouldn't cringe to hear their private conversations made public? Others, of course, are taking a different.
Spoken like a true robber of justice. Spoken like a true thief of the city council.
And that, of course, and that includes Pritzker's own opponents, Chris Kennedy, saying that character is tested when we think nobody is watching and that Pritzker's conversations are, quote, disqualifying and a reflection of his integrity. Then you have gubernatorial candidate State Senator Daniel Biss saying that the calls demonstrate a systemic problem with Illinois politics.
I think J.B. Pritzker owes an apology to the people of Illinois for thinking that that kind of backroom conversation between two of the most powerful people in the state is the right way to decide who's going to be the next U.S. senator.
Why that guy has
and
forehead on
for
accordion?
Two powerful white men to decide which African American person they are going to install in a position of power. I think everyone in the state of Illinois deserves an apology for that kind of thinking.
So, Amanda, we've been hearing portions of these calls between J.B. Pritzker and Rob Blagojevich. Where are these tapes coming from?
Phil, it's actually a trickier question to answer than you might imagine. Any of the FBI's wiretapes that were played during Blagojevich's trial, those can and have been made public. But these tapes were not. They were apparently leaked to the Chicago Tribune, whose reporters have not, and frankly aren't probably ever, going to disclose who shared them. A journalist did report that it didn't come from Rauner's campaign.
Whoever is leaking these conversations is clearly only leaking conversations by me. Remember, these are illegally leaked tapes. I don't know who did it or how it happened, but it's clearly intended to have the effect of benefiting Governor Rauner.
Oh, you didn't like that, huh? You didn't like your private conversations leaked. Well, guess what, buddy? It happened. And so here we are, Illinoisans, just out here. I messed it up. Here we are, Illinoisans, just out here trying to make it. You know what I mean?